thank you for listening to the Paranormal Radio Network.
Well, hello and welcome to Portal Paranormal Talk Radio. I am your host, Tuesday Miles.
And I'm Angela Thomas.
Hello, Angela.
Hello, Tuesday Miles. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you, and I hope all of our listeners are well and they had a great week before today, and thanks for joining us. And Angela, real quick, can you give us our website and the call-in number if anybody wants to call in?
Absolutely. Well, if you are listening to the show, you may wish to visit our website at portaltalkradio.com. Today's show with guest Charles Adelman can be heard on AOL, MSN, Tricom, BBS Radio, Aussie Chat, and Live 365, just to name a few. If you wish to join us in our virtual auditorium, just go to the network site at paranormalradionetwork.com and click onto the virtual auditorium, and it will bring you right into a room of people who are interacting and talking about today's show. Also, if you have a question or a comment, you can call our toll-free number at 877-786-0562.
Thank you so much. So, there's announcements. You sent me a really interesting email this week, or last week it was, about a new center opening up in New Orleans.
Yes. It's called the Haunted Mortuary, and actually it is a interactive lab and observatory, and it's a museum.
It is.
So they have a lot of researchers, parapsychologists, and paranormal investigators that are all collaborating together and bringing that information to the public. And from what I've learned Tuesday, it's going to be a phenomenal place to go.
Well, they've put in a lot of money into the place, for one thing. They had a lot of sponsors. I was told that they received a grant, which was, that in itself is phenomenon, because the fact is that the government doesn't give a lot of grants out for paranormal research. And so these guys that are opening up this museum, this place for all the paranormal enthusiasts to go and gather together, put their heads together, bring some new documentation that we've been waiting for with the, state-of-the-art equipment, which is, a lot of these paranormal investigation teams are now putting together. They're just spending eons of money and getting the best equipment. So, and not always do I agree with all this top-notch equipment, but it's shown to be helpful, and it's supposed to be open the latter part of January 2008.
Right. In fact, I believe they did open up a segment just the other day, but it is not in its full completion. Their actual grand opening, so to speak, will be in January. One thing about it, though, Tuesday, I'm very happy to finally see that something like this is being done, that there is a large collaboration, and it's not just in New Orleans, but also in Los Angeles, California. And I've seen reviews of some of the works that those that are in collaboration together have gotten from, large television networks and cable networks and things of that nature. But just to move us along into the broader sense of broadcasting and media and being open in the public, like the museum and the lab is going to do, is just absolutely phenomenal. I do believe we're finally progressing.
Finally, on that note, I also want to ask real quickly if Linda is in our virtual auditorium. She is the significant other of our station manager. And I did a reading on Linda a while back, and part of the conversation, I had said to her that they go up to the casinos up where they live, and I had said to her, there is a machine I am picking up, I want you to play. And so thinking that this is the thing, when psychics give you information, it is your choice to pick and choose what you feel fits with you and what you choose to ignore. But if Linda would come up to the mic, I want Linda to actually just real quickly can tell us what was the information I had given. She's up there, so if we can just allow her to come up real fast and explain to me us all what I gave her, what information I gave her and what happened. Go ahead, Linda. Go ahead and try it again. we're having some technical difficulties. There, hold on one more second. Try it one more time, Linda. She needs undotted. Okay, let's undot her. Okay, we'll get this. Bear with us for just a second, people. Where'd you go, Linda? Try it again. And we probably just kicked her right off. Great. Well, she'll be right back then. We'll wait for her to come right back in on it. And so, I mean, it's she got booted. They say that she got booted. Okay, well, we'll just bring her back on in just a second. But the funny thing is on this is that, really, though, you do have a choice. Here it is. And you do a lot of readings also, too.
Yes, I do.
And so, the fact is that what do you say to your clients?
Well, I give them what the influences are and what I'm getting. And when it comes to gambling or actually any aspect in their life, I also let them know that if you follow the path that you're currently on, and if you do or not do this particular thing, then this is the result. And oftentimes, a lot of people will either try to divert it or plan for it. And, some people sometimes believe that things are either A, kind of silly or too good to be true. And then they find out in hindsight, such as what I know about Linda and your reading with Linda. In hindsight, you go, oh, gosh, So I hear from a lot of clients that say, when you told me this, and this, I thought you were crazy or you were being silly or such and such. So people learn to pay closer attention the next time.
That's very true. And although that some things might sound ridiculous, or the fact is that how would I be able to predict, a certain win for somebody or a certain, way of making money? And, this is the thing. If we're not making this information up. And I was very adamant about it, and I said to her, this is something I think you should really look into. Pay attention where you're going to be at, because there's a reason for this.
Well, Tuesday, do you ever get where your clients will say, well, I don't have any plans to do that, or, I'm not quite aware of what you're talking about. And, I try to stress to them that, I am reading within a certain timing, and I'm letting you know between this time frame and that time frame that this is what is coming about. And just because somebody doesn't have plans that day or even has made plans to go somewhere or to do something, especially when it comes to making money, doesn't mean it's not going to happen.
Right. Well, she's saying that her mic is not working, and I'm just hoping that she's telling the truth, because she's so shy when she comes up to the mic. So this is the deal. Linda, are you sure you have no mic? I don't want it. This should come from her lips. Can you use Joe's? You have no mic. Can you use Joe's? This is our station manager's wife. Okay, well, we won't, if she can't do this, we'll move on it. She's red dotted. Okay, let's try this. Let's try to unred dot her. Where is she? There she is. Well, I'm learning how to be an admin in here. Okay, thank you. Okay, Linda, you are unred dotted.
Okay, so we'll see if Linda takes the mic and can share her experience.
There we go. Okay, there she goes. Up she goes. Okay, go ahead. It's your mic, JoJo.
Well, it must be something in the air.
It must be.
Okay, so why don't you go ahead and give us the information in which you provided to Linda, since unfortunately she's not able to share it herself with the people in the virtual auditorium.
Okay, well that's okay then. Well, they live in a town where they have some casinos there, and being that they do go up once in a while to the casinos, and I had said to her there is a machine. I keep hearing this machine called Wheel of Fortune, and the machine is on the very end. And I think that it would be very profitable for you to go over to this machine and play it. And I just went on to describe where the machine was. Well, her husband last night was online, and I happened, it's okay, Linda, and he happened to come in and say, I'm at the casino, help me win something. And I says, well, I already told Linda to play the Wheel of Fortune, and I told Joe, our station manager, go play this Wheel of Fortune. I described where it was at. I described the machines that were in line with it. It was on the end. So he decided that he was hungry first and didn't go play it right away. Well, as they, I guess, were mingling through the casino, they heard somebody winning, and as the lady walked away, the lady won $620,000 off the Wheel of Fortune machine. So mind you that she was very upset at Joe and wanted to throw him off the bridge.
Oh,
and,
yes.
And had they got there a little earlier, maybe, they would have won that $620,000. So I don't think that's your last chance, Linda. We'll see if we can come up with something.
Yeah, we'll have to track Linda.
Yes, really. So sorry.
And ask for a percentage next time Tuesday.
Oh, I should do that. Absolutely. I should have asked for my cut. I'm not going to give any more of that information out until first I ask and get my cut in writing.
And Linda is saying 20% Tuesday, 20%.
20%. That's fair enough for me. I'll take 20%. It's more than I had in the beginning. Well, also, too, I shared with you that we had an episode here at my house Friday night where California has been extremely dry in the weather, and we had a good rainstorm and the lightning show and thunder, and lightning decided to hit the transformer behind my house. And I'll tell you, Angela, I have never in my life heard such a loud explosion. This exploded so loud and just shook my whole neighborhood. Every car alarm that was running off, the electricity went off, but only seemed for a couple minutes. It went back on again, and it was just pouring. But I thought an airplane had crashed. It was just, it's literally scared the death out of me. But, I noticed after that the weather patterns, with our ghosts and spirits, I noticed the weather patterns have a lot to do with the activity. And I'll have to say to you that when it rains, my house is full of ghosts.
Wow. So what do you think that is?
Well, this is the thing. Even when I turned around and said to them, excuse me, this is not a hotel. It's not like you're going to get wet. Why are you coming into my house? Is it the fact that the water or the energy in the air during the storm, you would think that they would be able to regenerate themselves. But I'm not sure about that. I'm just wondering if it depletes their energy and they're actually looking for cover.
Well, I've thought about that before, and one of the things, since the atmosphere and weather affects humans, and we all are energy, then it stands to reason that it would affect the energy of those on the other side. If we take, let's say, low barometric pressure, that particular pressure can affect our bodies and our emotions, and our physical, energy might feel depleted and things of this nature. So I do believe that atmosphere makes a strong difference in how many spirits can communicate and how frequently, as well as the weather. Now, personally, I haven't noticed an increase due to stronger weather, but I believe you get more than I do or something. I have no idea, but I can, of course, we have to take in mind or consider, Tuesday, that your house is filled with spirits and ghosts.
Yeah, it is. It's not just my house, though. It's just the whole neighborhood has them. Everywhere from the middle school that's around the corner to the elementary school that's on the opposite end. The whole neighborhood has its fill with them. And I do believe that the fact is that now I'm getting more and more information that I'm actually been able to research in the area where that, and this dates way back to even where it goes into the 1700s, where this area was traveled from Mexico. And, of course, at that time, California was part of Mexico. And so, we have the ocean 3 miles away, and then where my neighborhood was, there was fresh water streams that actually flows along the San Gabriel River now. Of course, the land has been built up, and there's homes that's built up on top of it, but it does create, like a grid line, like an energy ley line. Besides that, there was the Tujunga Indian tribes that had their, some of them had the different little, I would say there's small little communities that they were built up along these paths. Paths went up to Oregon. And I'm sure that there was, there was a lot of deaths that were probably, occurred during this timing. And, considering that it's from 1700 and the history that goes from there and up until today, and so I think that, not all of them are active ghosts or spirits. I do believe a lot of it's imprints.
Imprints? Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask you, Tuesday, have you ever tried to have your home exercised, or would you prefer just to cleanse, let's say, the negative entities there and keep the positive ones? Or what's your feelings about living among spirits and ghosts? Do you want them to be part of your internal, environment and community, or would you rather just say, listen, why don't you move on?
Well, here's the thing. Why am I exercising something that's not hurting us? Mind you, there's been a small handful of ones that I would call maybe, and I'm just going to call them earthbounds. Earthbounds is just something to describe something that's not the prettiest, but, that's been in and out. And it's been a lesson that I've learned through it also, and so what am I going to exercise? Exorcism to me is the fact that you've got something that is supernatural, that's in your, in your space, in your home, that is causing, it's disrupting. And these ghosts don't disrupt anything. They really don't. They sometimes, I think they have just, they have good days and bad days also, just like we do. They were human ones. They have that attitude that, a majority of them have a great attitude. There's nothing harmful to hurting me. I help them as much as I can. It's their choice on how much help that they want. And in whatever is out of my hands, I can only do so much. I don't know what else is there for them to get help with.
So in other words, though, you are fine and dandy with keeping your home more or less like a spiritual transient station.
Yeah, house for the homeless. This is the thing. The fact is that they're comfortable. This is the thing. If I've noticed that there's, especially with, there's some of the children that are here in spirit. And mind you, this is not my goal for them to live at my house. If I can help them move on to where they're supposed to be, that's a great thing. I'm more than happy to do that. But, the thing is that also, too, at least they know that they have an area where they're not going to be tormented and they're not going to be exploited and they're not going to be harmed. They're safe. And I treat them as that way. I don't include them into my daily regimen. I not get up, every morning and name the 5,000 that's around us in this neighborhood, and I've not named them all. I do know some of their names, and once in a while, like when I walk by them, I'll see Charlie. Charlie usually stays on the back porch, and I'll say, hey, Charlie, what's up? But I'm not standing there with a conversation with them. This is not what it's about. I know a little bit about Charlie. He's very shy. He doesn't really like to engage with a lot of conversation. He has given me the minimum of it, and he's just kind of on his way. Once in a while, I get one in here that just wants to be a bully, and it doesn't last. I don't put up with it, and the other ghosts don't put up with it either.
Well, so what would you recommend for those individuals that have spirits in their home but do not wish to address it? A lot of people like to stay in denial, or they may think, if I don't address this, then nothing's going to change, and thus far everything's been pretty quiet right now. What would you tell those that are apprehensive about doing anything about spirits in their home?
Well, this is the thing, too, and this is something yet I have not been able to completely prove or document. It's a study that I've been doing for the last couple of years, whether or not too much activity can actually harm you because of the electromagnetic field that they have around them. that indeed that can, radiate out onto us. The fact is that I've been doing a study that does this cause congestive heart failure. There has been a lot of documentations of medium psychics that have suffered from it. Whether or not this makes your body ill, what type of diseases that the majority of the psychics or mediums who are really active in this field, even paranormal investigators too, if they're suffering from any type of conditions, diseases because of it. Some of them have come down with asthma, not known in their family, no reason why they should be come down with asthma, with water retention. We're not sure how much we can prove on the water retention because it seems like, a majority of the psychics and maybe mediums, they'll sit too long, and it's not good circulation for them, and they suffer from that. So the study's going to, this is not going to be just a couple-year study. I'm trying to do the study for 6-year study and see really what comes up about it. I know that myself, what I noticed, the reason why I started to do a study in this is because there was 22 people on my block within 40 houses that came down with a really weird cancer, and had the health department out here and all kinds of other experts in having a cancer cluster come out and do some research, and they found nothing in the neighborhood that would cause that, although because of the activity and the EMF and the type of cancers they were coming down with, I was suspicious with it.
So really it's the EMF that is affecting the neighborhood.
The neighborhood, yeah.
Well, Tuesday, I know that we're drawing close to the top of the hour, or top of the 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. And can you tell us who today's guest is?
Oh, great. We have Charles Adelman. Charles Adelman is the director, producer of the new Ghost Encounters, The Queen Mary, starring Peter James. This is the last film Peter did before he died on July 31st. 2007, and it's just going to be released here on the 25th. I was sent a copy of it. I was able to watch the documentation. I'm going to call it a documentary movie, and it's just absolutely awesome. I can't say enough about it. There's a lot of new information that was brought to light about the Queen Mary and the ghosts that were there. It stars Fiona Horn also with some other special guests, Deborah Wilson. Gosh, it's just got a whole bunch. It's just really wonderful. So he's going to come in and share with us about what it was like doing the film there with the ghosts, and he's got a lot of other projects. So I'm looking forward to hearing from him.
Well, good. Well, we all are looking forward to it. One of our participants in the virtual auditorium is saying that you get a copy of it, and we have to wait.
Yeah.
But we know that Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, will be the new release. So certainly we will provide the information so that you can order your own copy. I know a lot of people have been anticipating this film, and there's a lot of buzz going on in Hollywood. And so we look forward to hearing from Charles Adelman.
Thanks, me too. I can hardly wait. So we should be back in about, I'd say less than 3. We're going to, I'm actually going to have play the trailer of the Ghost Encounters, and then we'll bring Charles on after that. So. But I'm really looking forward to it. This is, I'm really excited about the DVD. There's always a lot of basic information about the Queen Mary. Well, this time they've actually really added a lot of new information through this. And, there's one thing that's just heart-wrenching. And, you've heard me say this before. When you hear this little girl speak, that's the spirit on the Queen Mary, it just breaks your heart. And we should be right back. And welcome back. I'm going to play the promotion or the trailer for the Ghost Encounters in just a minute. There is a place where you can go sign a memorial book for Peter James, and it is on the Portal Talk Radio website. That's www.portaltalkradio.com. You'll see the first entrance door there. You'll see his name with the little candles burning them. Just go into his website and you'll see any updated information that is on the site for Peter. And if you still haven't signed his memorial book, you can. It still will be up there for a little while on this. The new release of, or the release of the new DVD, Ghost Encounters, and there is also a place to order his prior DVD that he had done with Peter James Presents the Ghosts of the Queen Mary, and you can also order your copy there. There's limited copies there that you can order that are left for that particular DVD. But in the meantime, we'll listen to this trailer that was done by Charles Adamin, Anthem Pictures, and we'll bring in our guest right after that. And we'll wait for our station manager to clue it in.
Hello, I'm Peter James.
And I'm Fiona Horn,
Welcome to Ghost Encounters.
aboard the Queen Mary.
Hauntings have been reported in all cultures worldwide since the beginning of recorded history, and man has sought to understand and prove the existence of ghosts. And with a great deal of skepticism, it's taken many years of pondering the greatest mystery in the world of the unknown. Is there life after death?
On here, I noticed that ringing back on something. Oh, I can hear that. It just gives me the chills. Now, you are independent film and DVD distribution center. You're actually. I'm sorry. Are you okay? Because I'm reading here now. I know that you do films. I went to go look to see what other films that were there.
Tuesday, hold on one second.
Okay.
I'm just hearing a bunch of feedback in the background.
Okay. Got it. Okay, thank you. Welcome back. We have our guest is joining us, and this is Charles. Is it Adamin?
Edelman. Correct.
Did I pronounce it? Well, welcome, and thank you for joining us today.
No problem.
I got to watch you sent me a copy of the Ghost Encounters with the Queen Mary, and I have to say I was quite impressive.
Well, good.
I was quite impressed. And, this is the thing that, not only because the fact is that there was a prior DVD made of the Queen Mary, and although it seemed to be a little bit more of the quality wasn't so clear. On this DVD, the quality of the documentary, can we call it a documentary?
Absolutely.
The quality of the documentary on this was so clear. Was there some certain type of film to use on this? Because this is the reason I ask is that when you get around vortexes, it seems the film becomes really gritty. But
Absolutely.
on yours, it didn't.
We shot 3 different cameras just to make sure we covered everything. The source camera, the A camera, was a high-definition camera, which was helmed by a very well-known cinematographer that mostly shoots IMAX and concert videos. And then we had a B and C camera, which were just standard DV resolution. And ironically, the DV cameras are what caught most of the action and footage that we did not expect to catch. So,
well, I want to ask you some questions. So let me get into one of the questions on this, and I do have them actually on it written down, so I don't forget anything. On what was it that drew your interest to doing this documentary, Charles?
First of all, I'd met Peter James, and I was very intrigued by what he does and what he did, and really his world, his paranormal investigations, his honesty. There were a lot of things that drew me to Peter, first off. So I figured, hey, I'll go down and check it out. He'd invited me down several times to the Queen Mary, and I hadn't even thought of doing a documentary. I just was going to go down and check it out. Well, I went down and spent an evening down there and did his tour, and then did a private little walk around with Peter, till about 2 in the morning, and it just hit me. I said, this is fantastic. This is too good. This is too good to be real. And so we set forth to do a documentary about the ghosts on the Queen Mary specifically and Peter James' investigations. So that's what we did. About 2 months later, we locked down the ship pretty much for a weekend and went in and shot and cleared the space, made sure there was no tampering or speakers playing or anybody really messing with us as we would go through, because the areas we would actually go to shoot at were completely locked off from the public. Nobody could actually get in there even if they wanted to.
Now, did you believe in ghosts before making this film?
Oh, that's a good question. Had one experience in my life and still question that. After that, I just sort of let it be and always was open to the idea of. But I would have to say of the 30 to 35 crew members that were on this crew, 95% of them were all just there for a paycheck pretty much on the get-go. But after we finished wrapping this 1 week of shooting on the ship, there was not a single person that didn't believe in ghosts. I wouldn't even question them.
I mean, and I don't want to give away anything that's really in this documentary, but in the trailer and the very end of the trailer where you go and you say to Jackie, this little ghost girl that's on the ship, can you say hello or goodbye because you're leaving? And she answered you.
Ironically, that was not during the physical documentary production. That was a week before we started shooting. My main cinematographer was still in Chicago doing a film, and so he couldn't be there. So I brought another camera guy with me down to the ship to shoot the layout of the ship, because I don't know if you know, this thing's longer than the Titanic was. It's massive. And so you have this massive ship, and it's very hard to just go start shooting when you don't really have a visual blueprint of what you're getting into, especially within a week's amount of time. So I brought a guy with me to go shoot. We did Peter's tour. We shot that. And then Peter was tired. He went to his room probably about like 12:30, 1 o'clock. And we, the guard, myself, and my camera person, and I think it was Grant at the time, we went down back into the pool area. And we were just, I was hoping, hey, we're really shooting just to shoot. And we were there for about 40 minutes. Camera was on and off. And finally, we had it on, shooting sort of an overall view of the pool area. And just joking, not even serious, because I knew I'd heard Jackie barely speak with Peter. And I said, Jackie, can you say hello or goodbye before we go? And as clear as day, she said goodbye. And the only thing I could think of saying back was thank you. You know what? What else are you going to say? You can't be scared because it's known that that's what you're there for.
You responded so quickly to her after she said that. It was just,
To be quite honest, I was so blown away. It was the opposite of gasping for breath. It was the first thing that came out of my mouth was, "Oh, thank you." You know, it's like, wait a second, did I just say thank you to a ghost for responding to me? So it was, and that was really our foyer going into this documentary. From that point, I was just wow. So anything that came after that was really added value to us visually, audibly, and it just a lot more ended up happening, of course, as you saw in the documentary.
I did. But, you know, I mean, I have to say that when, you know, even with that trailer and seeing that part and your response so fast back to her, you can tell you kind of gasped and said, "Oh, thank you," you know. But, you know, this is the thing, in fact, is that having a child and knowing that this little girl, I mean, and mind you, this is a little young girl. And when you hear her voice, and you think to myself, she's all by herself, roaming the ship, how heartbreaking it is to know the fact is that, you know, I think I take comfort in maybe Peter's with her. And,
absolutely. And that's why it was probably the best thing in the world was to have his sort of gathering down at Queen Mary, you know, sort of, I wouldn't say memorial, I would say send-off. Yeah. You know, that would be the best way to reference, because anybody knows that that's where Peter James is going to be at. And that's all those ghosts that have been, all 300 or so ghosts that have been traveling around that ship for 50-something years, they're going to have their guide now. They're going to have sort of like their teacher.
Oh, absolutely, on this.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, you have quite a few stars in this documentary. You know, Peter James, Fiona Horn, Deborah Wilson Skelton.
Yep.
Is it Sontag?
Yeah, Frank Sontag from 95.5 KLOS.
You know, I mean, what was it like working with Peter?
What was it like from my vantage working with Peter?
Yeah, from your perspective.
Oh, I love him. I mean, he is the most generous person when it comes to talking and personality and environment. I mean, he's sort of the antithesis of everybody in the entertainment industry. Peter is like a breath of air as opposed to sucking the air out of a room. When he walks in, he's very giving with his spirit and soul, and so it was a treat. And I think, as you know, and anybody who has known Peter, it was a treat to know him, let alone work with him, more than anything, be his friend. So I'd have to say I've worked with a lot of actors, especially just finishing a pretty decent feature film. And Peter's just so different. He was not tainted by Hollywood. He was just real.
He was, and I have to completely agree with that. I just, you know, I mean, when I say to describe a man who, how do you describe Peter James? I mean, there's just that loving, compassionate, intelligent, you know, gorgeous, smart, loving man who was quite a psychic and ghost hunter.
Yes.
You know, I mean, I think anybody now who, you know, there's not one person in this world that really doesn't know and recognize who Peter James is. And I have to say, with this new documentary that's out with him, and it just shows more of the light that, you know, the type of person he was and how credible he was with the work that he did do. It wasn't something staged or fake.
And the hardest part of this documentary was not doing reenactments or audible sounds. It actually, that's why it took us so long to try to at least get something out of it. We didn't make it like a Clash TV show where you have reenactments and ghosts going through the hallways. We don't show, or you don't hear anything that is not real. It's harder because you don't have as much content, because you're very limited to what you have that actually came out either audibly or visually. But at the end of the day, I think it's more gratifying. You actually put out, we actually put out something that's real. That's not fake. It doesn't have any bubble gum to it.
Oh, I agree on that. Now, I know that Dimitri, I think it was Hietala, I think is how you pronounce his last name. We've had him on the show, too. Was there any clips from he was Peter James' videography, or videographer?
Yes, there were. There were a few clips that were from, way back in 92. And we used those as bridges because there were pieces of footage. There's about 10 or 15 minutes of the documentary, which were from Dimitri's footage that he had shot back in the early 90s. That was just so amazing. We had to incorporate it. And what the most amazing thing is, there's a portion of the documentary where Peter is down at the pool, and the little girl starts singing "London Bridge is Falling Down." And what's amazing is if you come back to present, when I heard the little girl, and when we actually heard her again while we were shooting the documentary on video, it's the same voice. It's not a person who's been there for 15 years sitting in the pool area making this sound. It's not speakers because it doesn't come from a single unified location. It's most definitely a disembodied voice that has been lingering not only for 15 years but for 50 around the Queen Mary. So by taking the footage that he had and sort of splicing it into the newer footage and documentary and information that we have, you show a bridge. You show that this is real. This isn't just us going out and adding voices and sounds. This has been an ongoing experience, as you know, by tens of thousands of people on the Queen Mary. This isn't just me and you and Peter. It's scores of people.
It is scores of people. And the fact is that, on part of this, there was, and Peter wasn't afraid of anything. This is the thing about Peter. Peter could go into the most disturbing, haunted area and still not be afraid of anything. And I have to say, and I won't give it away, but something happens to Peter that was caught on film in this DVD. And so, you'll have to actually, and I can't say enough to you. And we've got a virtual auditorium. Right now we've got, I think there's about maybe 40 or 50 people that are in here that are right in front of me. And I have to say to you all, you have to get this, because even to see what a ghost can actually do to you, I mean, it actually did something to him.
And that, which is really strange for Peter, because Peter typically does not channel. And this was a very weird thing. I don't know how to explain it. It wasn't channeling. It was a very different thing that Peter did, whereas, as you know, Peter really takes a scientific route to the ghost world, where he, and we even quote this in the documentary, energy cannot be created or destroyed. It only changes form. So if you just, anybody in the world, whether you're a skeptic or ghost believer, even if you take that science fact, which is a proven science fact, when we die, we are made bioelectromagnetic energy, correct?
Correct.
So when we die, what happens to that bioelectromagnetic energy? I mean, that's just a science question. What happens to it?
That's right. It does.
So Peter takes that route, and he says, look, some people who die untimely deaths, that energy does not have time to dissipate or release. So it's like it just stays there. It stays in a collective state and really doesn't know where to go. And since consciousness is not there in terms of being held by a brain matter with memories and everything, it just sort of repeats that last few moments of their life. And it lives in this cyclical state for God knows how long. So that's why...
And to even prove that, because there's one part of it where, in the Queen Mary there was actual two pools at one time.
Absolutely.
But the memory of one of these ghosts, and I won't say who it was, but the memory of one of these ghosts actually was recalling back to that first pool being still active.
Absolutely, and which goes back to taking that where that you have a memory state. And when you're going back to what you were talking about, Peter, doing this sort of channeling thing, in this, which is such a great part, and I'm not giving anything away anyways,
okay.
He channels, it uses his Peter's vocal cords. So it's not like he's channeling a spirit jumped into his body. He actually is channeling this energy through a physical body part. And what's amazing, when you've heard it, it is not Peter James.
No, it's not.
It is clearly not Peter James. There is a tonality and a resonance that is so different than Peter James' even voice. You can't see his mouth moving. I mean, even the best ventriloquists in the world cannot get that type of timbre out of their voice.
No, I agree with you. And one part where I loved it, though, Charles, is where Deborah Wilson Skelton, she says during the part of the trailer, I have never heard anything like that in my life. I mean,
absolutely.
And the look on her face, and if you all haven't seen this, you can go over to on our website, and there's a link there that you can go to where the trailer is on YouTube and watch it. But if you see the look on Deborah Wilson's face, I mean, she is just, it freaked her out. Her eyes got big. I mean, her face got big, where she is hearing the moaning.
Well, this is why it's great to bring personalities like Deborah, who's very well known from her years on Mad TV, who's much more known for her comedic aspects in her life. Mm-hmm. And then you have radio personalities, people who would typically be more the skeptical route, and you bring them on, and everybody's just, wow, what did we just experience?
Absolutely. And I have to tell you that, I really believe that this is a really good choice to bring Fiona Horn on here also. Fiona Horn is, if you all don't know who Fiona Horn is, I mean, not only is she a well-known musician, she's a singer, she's known all over the place for her work and her, as being a witch, But there's just, she's very talented. She's a very talented psychic herself. Gorgeous lady she is, and I really have to say that she added that beautiful touch to the documentary by having her on it also.
Yeah, the good thing about Fiona is she does come from a very different aspect, which is not the ghost side, but more of the Wiccan spiritual side. Mm-hmm. So it was cool to integrate her into this world and have her beliefs. That instead of not just her being a catalyst, but also a complement. And I think that really paid off.
Absolutely on that. I have to say, and she's coming up and she'll be on our show in a couple of weeks. And I spoke with her the other day, and she was just she could hardly wait till the Ghost Encounters came out, and she was very proud about being a part of it and being a part of something of your pictures. Anthem Pictures is actually, you've dipped your hands in not only with Ghost Encounters, but you do all kinds of films.
Absolutely.
And this is something that you started back in having interest in doing films at 7 years old, Charles?
Oh, God, I would have to say so.
That's a long time.
Yes, it is.
And then you went on to go to college for this, and you went to a college or a university in California, didn't you?
Yeah, I went to the USC School of Cinema and Television, correct.
And so now that you're a writer, you're a producer, you're a director, are we leaving anything out?
No, that's pretty good.
Well, no, wait a minute here. Weren't you an actor?
Oh. We left something out. Yes, I was. I was a child actor.
You were a child actor. You
yes.
Sure were. Now, is
yes.
there something that that maybe we are we?
No.
Wait a minute here.
My wife can't even get that information out of me. I doubt you guys can.
You're supposed to give us something that we've never heard about before.
I did a lot of TV and commercial work, a lot, and that was what I did from age 10 till about 17.
We're not going to call you Mikey.
I think it's because I don't consider myself an actor. I do consider myself a writer, producer, director, and there's people, and the reason I stopped acting, per se, was every time I would go out on an audition, I would be acting or competing against somebody who I knew deserved the role more. I knew they were right for the role. So God knows how many times I would throw my role, throw my audition in a weird way, subconsciously and consciously, because I knew they were the right person. And that's when I started going, you're in the wrong side of the camera. You need to be on the other side.
Now, that must not have made your mom very happy, because I know that it takes a lot out of these parents to take your kids to these auditions.
I have no idea how many. I would sometimes go to two or three auditions a day.
Well,
and we lived an hour north of LA. So it got to be, starting my junior year, I went half days because I would have to go to that. I would take college at night. So, yeah, it got to be pretty hectic. My parents loved it when I got my driver's license. Then I can drive myself to my audition.
Oh, I bet they did, but still in the same sense, though, that's something to be proud about. And this is something that really, I guess if we need to dig the dirt up on you, we're gonna really have to dig, because we want to know everything about Charles.
Oh, no. Not that. I'll tell you everything else.
Well, we've got a minute, and then we have to go to station break first for a few minutes. But on that note, I do want to talk about, when you get back, on why you think people are so drawn to see documentaries about these movies,
sure.
or about the supernatural. It seems that this day and age there is so much of this type of audience that we're drawing into seeing these movies.
Absolutely.
Hollywood is just going nuts about
Absolutely.
the supernatural.
Absolutely.
And so on that note here, I think we've got about 30 seconds left on it. So when I come back, I want to get your comments about that, because, the fact is, Hollywood is making we're going to break. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Well, it's got us here for about a minute or two left.
Paranormal Radio Network.
Yeah.
Oh, paranormal all the time.
Paranormal. And thanks for tuning back in. I'm Tuesday Miles, and joining us today is Charles Adaman from Anthem Films, and we're talking about the new release of the Ghost Encounters of the Queen Mary, due to release on the 25th of September. And welcome back, Charles. Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome. Good to be back.
Now, before we went to break, I asked you a question about what you felt. Why do you think that people are so drawn to go see movies about something of the supernatural? And it seems that Hollywood today is really paying close attention to whether it's a TV series or these movies, that they're being big hits.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would say it goes back well before even the advent of film or photography or mass culture. It goes back to organized religions and back to what we are all longing for an answer to, is there life after death? And I think what has started to happen is with mass media, with internet, with more access to answers, and really it's a wealth of research and information, Hollywood and feature films are starting to find that, you know what, there's a lot more stories than we ever expected. And more than anything, we're starting to get a clearer view of the demographics, meaning we're starting to see that more people than ever expected or anticipated are interested in the subject matter and really want to know. I mean, because why do people go to church on Sunday? Why do people go into a movie for 2 hours? What is the reason, and what is the search for why we're alive, and what happens, if at all, after we die? So I think Hollywood is, for lack of a better word, capitalizing on that. But there's a lot of independent film companies and some studios that are really taking it seriously and saying, you know, we can make a difference. We can actually start to look into answers to these questions and give people what they want.
Well, you know, because the fact is that, I mean, they really do pay attention to it, and whether or not, the fact is does Hollywood have the responsibility actually not to exploit this, and in fact, where this is, you know, and let's go back to where The Exorcist was on. You know, they have this movie, The Exorcist. I have to say, it scared the crap out of me as a kid. You know, I mean, and it's one of those movies it's a horrifying. I mean, it was a horrifying movie, and yet, you know, did it put the fear of the devil inside all of us? Well, it did me, but you know, yeah. I mean, it could. I mean, it's like where they had. I can't remember when it was. I mean, it was a long time ago where they put that. You know, the Martians are landing, and it really scared the heck out of people.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they're planning these stories. Is it just to get the audience in, or the fact is now that I've noticed that they are being more responsible and putting more factual information as they get it?
You've asked a very interesting question. You said, does Hollywood have a responsibility?
There you go.
I mean, you know, most people in Hollywood say, no, we don't have responsibility to anybody but ourselves. And then because they see it as an art form, as if a painter were to paint a painting of the Virgin Mary, you know, bloodied up, does that artist have a responsibility to make amends or to make a real statement? Do you see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. If it's considered an art form, the responsibility is taken out of it. If it's considered a mass medium, a way to communicate with, you know, billions of people, then yes, I would have to say they do have a responsibility. And that's all. I look at it this way: if it's a narrative feature film, if it's a film that is non-autobiographical, if it's a fiction piece of filmmaking, then no, I do not think they have a responsibility. I think people should have the right to do whatever type of films they want. But if it's based on a true story, if they say it is, or if it's a documentary or a piece of news, they absolutely have the responsibility. As much as I think mainstream TV shows do and news programs, because they're so concentrated on, the right-wing side of the world, to, the very staunch religious side of the world, and they don't give barely any time unless you're the Sci-Fi Channel or Court TV, which now has their paranormal shows on. But it's still few and far in between.
You
And
mentioned Court TV on it. Have you ever thought about doing something in regarding like that?
Oh, yeah. Well, originally, ironically, we took the show out even before we had finished the documentary. Peter and myself and Fiona, we had gone to VH1 and Court TV and you name it. And ironically, 6 months later, every single one of these networks had a show.
Wow.
So, yes, we had the idea before everybody had the idea a few years ago, but that's just, unfortunately, how the world works. And when you talk about responsibility, there you go.
Well, let me ask you, you mentioned on your site the IPTV channel.
Yes, we actually were going to launch an IPTV channel. Not a lot has happened, not from our end, but from the IPTV company. They were going to launch multi-channel IPTV service through your internet. And they've been very slow in getting their resources together. But since then, we have partnered up with quite a few companies, like Hewlett-Packard and a few others, that we are launching ways of getting our films and documentaries out through internet resources.
Well, the internet is clearly the way to go. I mean, it's incredible enough that it reaches just billions and billions of people. I mean, the fact is that now you're able to actually get your company out there known. Not everybody watches TV, but it seems that nowadays everybody's got a computer.
Absolutely, and it's just a question of how do we wrangle that internet world into a logical, advertising medium, to a way to mass market and mass merchant our films, beyond the standard, distribution of DVDs and theatrical films.
Amazing on it. Okay, I don't want to lose this topic, but I just want to ask you, Angela Thomas is the other host of our show, is asking a question about Back on the Ship, and she's asking, did Charles at any time feel a negative entity or ghost on the ship? And she says, I know that there was a few murders on the ship. Did you feel any of that energy when you were?
Absolutely. And then that was one of the funniest little joys of Peter. Peter, even if there was something, Peter would be like, don't worry about it. I always loved Peter for that. It's like, Peter, something's wrong. Oh, don't worry about it. Yes,
okay.
Yeah, most definitely. And I would have to say, going back to the little girl, she was a very lively, upbeat spirit. But somewhere in the pool area, there was a woman, and I think she was a nursemaid that was either killed on the ship or drowned on the ship, and she was very protective over the little girl. So there'd be times that you would hear the little girl begin to speak to you, and then it was almost as if, for lack of a better term, somebody would put their hand over her mouth and usher her away into some dark corner.
Would that be Sarah?
Peter,
he described that ghost as her name being Sarah.
Yes, that was Sarah.
Okay.
Yes, most definitely, and I would have to honestly say that was probably one of the most negative ghost experiences I did have on the Queen Mary. She was very negative. She was very protective. I don't know if she was negative just because she was protective of the little girl, but I don't know. There was just something very weird about that. And I know a few of my camera guys, they were leaving. We had shot till about 3 in the morning, and they had gone to the deck of the ship. And when they were walking back to their quarters, I guess some guy had walked up to them. There must have been a wedding on the ship the night before, in a top hat, like the old 40s tuxedo, and started asking them where the exit, how to get off the ship. And they're like, oh, well, you got to go to the elevator. They were trying to explain to him how to get down to the, 4 stories down to the base of the ship where the parking lot is. And they spent like 5 minutes trying to explain to this. He seemed very drunk and out of it. Well, the next morning, they were telling me how funny and weird this was. And the ship's archivist, I couldn't remember her name, she was explaining the ship's been locked down since we were there. There was no wedding, there was no parties, and there was sure nobody in a tuxedo the night before. And I guess this specific specter had been doing this for the last 30 years. Had been walking around, and again, thousands of people had experienced the same thing, where they had this same character walk up to them asking them how to get off the ship.
And so they didn't even recognize that was a ghost?
No, I'm talking, this is a full-figure apparition, not a ghost. I am somebody, like as if I were to walk up to you with a tuxedo on and start speaking to you. So they wouldn't go out outside the ship at night at all. They were like, okay, never again. That was it for us.
So, that goes to show you, the fact is that not even recognizing this is a ghost, and here you are interacting with this ghost. And they're talking to this ghost, telling them how to get off the ship, and not even noticing, because this ghost has appeared in what we call an apparition, and so clearly that you couldn't tell the difference between the two.
You got it. And that I think goes down to all of Peter's theories about these ghosts cannot actually speak, or they don't have vocal cords. They don't have all the typical things that, a ghost would. So what happens is they start to speak out by taking the energy that is around them, whether it be from light bulbs or camera batteries or whatever it is. That is how they live.
And doesn't that clearly prove, though, Charles, that that we do keep the intelligence, our memory, our intelligence, and when we do cross over to the other side? I mean, the fact is that, we don't forget what we're about. We don't forget how to speak.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's absolutely amazing on this. On it, I would have loved to have been there at the time that happened. That's to me.
I would too. I would have loved to have seen their face and seen exactly what transpired, because they were just red the next morning. It was amazing.
So, if you were asked to do a film in another haunted location, would you?
Absolutely, without even thinking about it.
Without even thinking about it. And so, do you have plans by any time to go back? I know that Peter's not there, and it's not the same without Peter. But, this is something that's important. I mean, people don't get the chance to always visit the Queen Mary. This is something that's not available, I mean, it is if you want to take a trip to Long Beach, California. But, the documentation, like I said, I'm not going to give it away, but there was some new information that I noticed that I did not know about the Queen Mary when watching this documentary on it. And so, any plans that maybe one day that you return to do more filming there?
You know what? I don't know if I will. I would love to. I just don't know if I would go back to do a documentary. I think I would actually go back to do a feature film. I really think that what a place. I mean, because it's amazing when you see feature films that are actually shot in very interesting and very spirit-laden locales. They come across. And I had talked to Peter. Unfortunately, I had talked to Peter about this. We really wanted to do a feature film based on Peter's life, but also sort of integrating, imagine, like the movie The Shining at sea. Something very, very much like The Shining, but on Queen Mary.
Well, you know what? I know that he would be very proud of this. I know that he did see, I mean, you added some things at the very end of this, and again, like I said, I'm not going to share what that was, but he would be very, very proud of the finished product of this DVD that you have that's coming out soon on the 25th on it, But, with that note on it, though, Charles, tell me what you have coming up also, because this is not your only baby. You have some other babies that you actually have that's coming up out. And you had mentioned, what was it called? The 213? Give me the name of that.
213, it's a feature film. It's a psychological thriller feature film, which stars Mark Thompson from the Mark and Brian radio program.
Which is a very popular radio DJ here in our states. Go ahead.
You what? Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. And then quite a few other, well-known actors, including Kevin Pollak, Dwight Yoakam, Terry Polo, Ken Howard, Lyman Ward. So it's a great ensemble cast. We finished filming in the middle of July. It's a full feature 35mm film. So we are in the middle of editing that right now.
Great. Now, let me ask you, do you get starstruck at any of these movie stars that you're around?
No.
You don't?
I do. I honestly have to say, it's what I love doing. It's as if you were to go to work and be starstruck with somebody you were sitting right across every day.
Right.
I do have to say, though, Kevin Pollak is one of my favorite actors, and it was really weird because we were in the middle of production, actually closer to the 14th day in production, and there I am. We're halfway through the day, and I'm sitting there directing Kevin Pollak, and it hit me. I'm sitting there staring and giving him a direction. Takes it. I mean, he's amazing. He's the easiest actor to work with, and just fantastic and wonderful and sweet. And I was talking to him, and I think it hit me. I'm sitting there staring at him, going, "Wait a second, I'm directing Kevin Pollak." So it was one of those really wonderful, wonderful moments for me.
I mean, he's a big movie star. I mean, he's a real big movie star.
He is, but he's fantastic. And the thing is, to be honest, the biggest star of this film was Mark Thompson. He just is such an untapped talent that he's gonna, after this movie, he will start getting some major roles. You will start seeing him pop up on some major A-list films because he's an unbelievable real talent.
Well, I mean, and for some people who don't live in, I don't know, exactly where their show broadcasts out to, but I know that he's been a favorite in California for a long time. I mean, known all over the place for him, Mark and Brian show. But who knew that that he did writing? I mean, he did
Absolutely.
another, which is Mother Ghost.
Yes, he wrote and starred in Mother Ghost.
Which this was released. Was this released last year?
We released it this year. It was actually produced a few years ago.
Okay.
But we finally got it. It was literally sitting in his garage for a few years. But we finally put it out. Again, you're talking a major cast. Kevin Pollak was in that as well. You have Dana Delaney. Oh my God, just Joe Mantegna, James Franco. Just the list goes on and on. There's like 9 major stars in that movie. Gary Marshall.
A lot.
So,
and this had to do with also, too, with something regarding having psychic...
Absolutely. Mother Ghost is a very interesting, which is why, as you can see, most of the films I direct or produce are psychological thriller based, but also have a spiritual edge. I mean, I've written 12 scripts, and I'd say every single one of them has sort of a spiritual, ghostly edge to it, because that's what I'm drawn to.
It seems that way. I was going to make a comment on that. It seems that you are drawn towards, this stuff. And I have to say it. I mean, it's not, this is, you said A-list. Charles, I'm going to put you on that A-list.
Not yet.
I mean, you're being bashful about this, but, Charles, your
film number at the box office to be on the A-list.
Well,
I've never seen the A-list personally, but...
Not all films that are on the A-list are any good.
No, they're not, actually. So.
So you can't judge it on just the fact of putting yourself on that A-list. It's, some of these films, I don't know how they even get to the theaters. But the fact is
that... We always try to figure that one out.
But your films are good. They're really, really good. And, and so... I'm sorry to say, but, I'm going to put you on the A-list as today on this, because, they are good. I'm really interested. I'd like to, in fact, I plan on ordering. I'd like to order the Mother Ghost because I feel that
I will send you a copy. You don't have to order it.
Oh, well, thank you. But it has a
Mother
great
Ghost
story.
is a very sweet film. We had a screening at Universal earlier this year, sort of like a red carpet. Billy Bob Thornton came. A bunch of people came to the red carpet, and everybody was really impressed by it. It's just a great little film.
Well, you're proving
endearing, but.
You're proving to the listeners that you're just this regular guy, and I have to say...
I guess, what, but my thing is I'm not out partying with everybody. This is my job. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And so all of these people are as if you were talking about Bob at work or Jim at work or Sally. And it's weird, like let's say you want to go to work for another company and there's Joey over there that you would love to work with. Same thing as me talking with any major star or actor that I want to work with. It's just trying to build that career move to get to that point to be able to do what I want to do.
Well, speaking of who you want to work with, who would be your prime choice? Who's your next star that we can plug right now to get them over there to star in one of your movies?
You know what? I don't know. I can't say a specific person. That person usually hits me over the head when I read a role in a script.
Right.
And you usually say, oh, my God, it would be great to have this person or that person. And, there's quite a few actors, known and unknown, that I would love to work with. People that I just absolutely respect and know that they respect their craft. And just, you can tell they love what they do.
Yeah.
They really enjoy coming to work, and they really enjoy acting and being there and being present.
So we can't say Charlton Heston that's listening to the show. We're going to assume Charlton Heston is listening. So we're going to plug and we're going to urge Charlton Heston that we have a film coming up for him that he really needs to take the role for this. So
great. Oh, that's awesome.
We might as well. You never know. Hey, like I said, we have Shirley MacLaine that listens to the show. So Shirley MacLaine, are you out there? Come on. We want you down here on the show, and maybe up for something in your film. She's in that area. She's
Absolutely.
a well-known motion picture star, and she believes in this stuff. So,
Absolutely, and more than likely, my next film will be, very spiritual, ghostly driven. And I don't really want to use the word ghost. I mean, it is exactly what it is. But for me, it's sort of not just about being the ghost or having the ghost entity. It's about having it connected to us on a genetic level, on a spiritual level, on something more than just having an apparition floating around. Because these were and are and will be people.
Yeah, I agree with that. We have about a few seconds left, and we're going to go to one more short break, and then we'll come back. And I've got a couple of other really good things I want to ask Charles Aderman.
Sure.
And I want to remind, okay, we'll bring it right back. We'll be right back in a few minutes. Today is Charles Aderman from Anthem Pictures, and we're talking about the Ghost Encounters of the Queen Mary that is going to be released on September 25th, and you can look for ways to order a copy of this DVD on www.portaltalkradio.com, or you can go to actually Anthem, www.anthem, and that's ANTHEM and they can have, you also have there, Charles, a store, like a DVD store, which they can actually order some of your other films that you have.
Correct. Pretty much all the films Anthem Pictures carries.
And it's like a catalog that they can actually go through and I believe read up on each one of the films that you've done. And I have to say, you've got a lot of them.
Oh, yes. Well, besides films that we produce, we do distribute a lot of other people, a lot of independent films that we do not make that can never see the light of day at distribution companies or studios. So we've sort of become the home for the independent filmmakers.
Let's talk about Anthem. Anthem was incorporated in what year?
We incorporated in 2001.
In 2001. So it's a fairly new company.
Yeah, we're about 6.5 years old and growing. Just like a relationship, it has its ups and downs, but you sort of find your rhythm.
And Anthem, where did you come up with the name Anthem? I like that.
Oh, God, I was sitting there, was at a job in the mid '90s, or mid to late '90s, and just sat there when I said, what would be the theme for our company? What is the biggest thing you can think of? What is something that speaks to everybody? And it hit me. Oh, an anthem. And so I thought, well, there it is, Anthem Pictures.
Yeah, and that's pretty cool. I like that. And I wanted to make sure, because I want to understand this, because when I was reading it said that it was an independent film, a DVD distribution company. Now, this is where, like, for instance, somebody makes a film, and yet, like, say, excuse me for using a couple of the other names, but like MGM or United, they distribute the films for you? Is this what you do?
We are just like a studio, but micro small. Imagine us just like, Lionsgate or Sony or MGM, but, 1/1000th the size. So.
And climbing.
And climbing.
And climbing. I mean, your foot's in the door. In fact, I think half your body's in the door there.
Well, because you get smashed, but yes.
Because it is. And the fact is, and you have on there where it says, with well over 100 films and television shows. Anthem it says here it's the little company that functions like a micro studio, like you said.
Right.
But it's got it's a big function. It's getting to be bigger and bigger. And Anthem Films, I have to say, Charles, before we know it, before we blink our eyes, is going to be, out there where we all recognize it. And they can say that they heard you on our show.
On Portal Talk Radio.
On Portal Talk Radio, absolutely. And we love to promote, I'm still going to put you on the A-list. I can't call you a little guy anymore. You're just not a little train anymore. You're getting up there on it. So, and so, let me ask you on this. What other projects do you really personally you have going on? Can you tell us what you have going on right now?
As far as feature projects?
Yeah.
Mostly feature film stuff. After we finish the film that we just wrapped in July of 2013, and once we're done editing over the next few weeks, I'm going to reopen up sort of my vault of films that I've written, and films that my film partner, Mark Thompson, has written, because I know he's writing one or two right now as well. And we're sort of going to just lay them out on the table and figure out, okay, what's our path? What do we want to do? Because we both have the same likes with these psychological, spiritual thrillers. And, it's just a question of what we want to make next, because we're not really answering to a studio right now, so we can sort of go make the movie that we want to make.
So do you accept people's scripts that they write? I mean, are you interested in having just people send you scripts?
Yeah, I mean, but we have a lot of scripts that have already been submitted to us over the last few years.
Okay.
Just people constantly, cause I hate to say no to people, so it's like, oh yeah, I'll take a look at it, and I have so many scripts that I have written, and there's tons, probably 100 that I haven't even touched yet, just because I don't have the time to. But
Well,
if it's a good story, and if it's a good, good concept, we're always ears.
Well, like I said, right now it seems to be, over the last, 10 years, the hot commodity has been things about ghosts, about spirits, I mean, TV shows, the movies. And it's, it's entertaining, and people want to know, like we spoke before, they want to know about what the other side's about.
Absolutely.
And it sells. We want to buy it, you make it, we want to buy it. So, and, again, if you haven't yet been over to Anthem's site, and this is, go to it. It's, again, let me plug this, because it's www.anthemdvd, that's ANTHEM Go over there and look through their catalogs. Like my husband said, he likes to see different types of films. Ones that are not, out there in the theaters. Sometimes, like I said, you said they're A movies. They're not A movies. They just think they're A movies. But I noticed with your catalog, you have a big variety. You have some
we
comedies.
definitely have a movie for everybody.
you do.
Yeah.
You do. And did I read that you did some Sports Illustrated?
Swimsuit Illustrated. It's different than Sports Illustrated. It's the swimsuit magazine.
Wow.
Yes, I did quite a few of those.
I bet you that was something you didn't want to, was it a bathing suit issue? Did you do the bathing suit issue?
Yes, that's all I did. They were the swimsuit issue, swimsuit Illustrated.
Well, I don't think, what guy would not want to pass up doing the bathing suit issue of Sports Illustrated?
Well, it's not Sports Illustrated. There's a different magazine between Sports Illustrated, Swimsuit Issue, and Swimsuit Illustrated.
Oh, it is? Okay, I wasn't aware of that. Thank you for clarifying that.
Quite all right.
Deal.
Not all the grandeur of Sports Illustrated.
And so, on this 213, that movie that's coming out, is there, is there a trailer on YouTube that they can see, or is it just on your site?
The trailer will be out within the next few weeks. You can actually go to YouTube, and you can go to our website at the front page, anthemdvd.com, or go to 213themovie.com, and you can see the teaser that we did from the production, which doesn't give away too much, but gives you a cool idea about what's happening.
And so on your other stuff, is that where you mainly put is it just through YouTube that you put your
trailers and stuff on? No, I mean, most of our trailers are through our website. That's where a majority of the people will come and see the trailers for our films. Or on the sub websites for each film will have its own production company website and so forth.
Okay, and so on making sure, because we're going into, we've got about 10 minutes left, so I want to give you the opportunity on if there's anything that we missed. I want to make sure that we bring this up on it. So we've got this, in the past, we still have, Mother Ghost coming out, and I love that. I do want to get a copy. I'm going to hold you to your promise of sending me a copy.
Just remind me, I'll send you a copy. I'll send you a copy of all our films.
Oh, cool. And we've got, the 213, and I have to say, that's a scary movie, isn't it?
It is. I would have to say it's more scary just for the fact because it's a psychological thriller than it is scary for the fact that it's, the gore. The whole crew are all the guys who did the Saw film. David Armstrong is my cinematographer and co-producer, who also shot all 4 Saw movies. So we have a very distinct style and look to the film, which the audience knows all too well. So that's really the look we wanted. But it's if you take the movie Seven and Saw and mix them together, that's what we got.
Yeah, well, Saw was a pretty gory movie. I mean, if
Saw
anybody
was very good. We are nowhere near the gore in Saw.
Okay,
I mean, the first 3 minutes of our movie is pretty gory, but it's more. It's not as much as what you see, but what you don't see. That's freaky.
It's not like the Chainsaw Massacres where they're kind of... Okay.
No.
But you know what, Pete? That still sells. I mean, I'm not going to say it's a dude movie, but it sells. I mean, people like that to sit on the edge of their seats.
Absolutely. Well, this has a story. It has a little bit of a romance story in there. That's it's still dark. But it's most definitely a movie I think people will want to go see.
Even myself, because the fact is, sometimes I reach a point where I'm just like I'm covering my eyes, covering my ears. I can't handle any of it. Have you ever reached a point when you're filming something like this that this has gotten to you?
Yes. Oh, yeah. We in 213 we shot actually the opening sequence of the movie. Barely any of us could even be in the room while it was occurring. I mean, the only person in the room was the boom guy and the camera and the two actors. It was pretty tough.
I mean, because you know, with the makeup and what they do in these day and ages. I mean, the fact is, it really looks real. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
You know, and you know, I have to say, I don't know if I would be able to sit through it on it.
Well, again, this isn't a gore film. This is a different type of movie than a gore movie. So.
Now, I have a question from my co-host, and she says she's kind of joking, but I have a feeling that she's really not joking. And she says, "Hey, tell him we'll star in his next film. He needs more psychics and mediums to make it real." And she's going on to say that she's had some theatric experience. Does that count? And so, well, she was really trying to plug herself there.
That's funny.
You know, they have this new show that's out, and I have to say, I'm sorry, I don't really know the name of it, but they were actually looking for psychics and mediums alone, just to prove whether or not they were actual psychics and mediums. They're giving them an opportunity to go on the show and then sit in front of a panel.
I have a friend who they interviewed. It was a CBS show or something.
Okay.
They interviewed him to go on there.
You know,
So
talk about being put on the spot.
I never was into like the Mythbusters and stuff. It's like, guys, make a show that proves it's real, not proves it's not. I'm all into disproving myths and conspiracies and stuff like that. But why don't you spend the time actually trying to show factual evidence as opposed to demystifying it?
Exactly.
Something that really, really helps instead of hinders.
You know, I have a lot of people in the room that actually are into ufology. Have you ever thought about doing a film about this, about people who are abducted or contactees? Do you believe in it?
Absolutely. Another favorite subject of mine. I've actually written a script about that same subject. But, yes, it's always been very, very intriguing to me. And I think it's more than anything, not as much as ufology of abductions and, you know, where we're going, but really where we're from. I think there's just so many interesting facts dating back to Atlantean culture and pieces of history, not biblical history, real factual history, and paleontology and certain aspects of archaeology that can't be explained. Things that are just so not this world, and technologies that existed, you know, for thousands and thousands of years before we could even turn on a light bulb. So I think
because
that's
we just
where...
had another conference out at Roswell, which, you know, I mean, marks another milestone of what actually happened out there. And I have to say that, you know, ufology and the people who have gone through being an abductee and a contactee has gone through, the fact is that they don't get a whole lot of recognition on this. It's not something that is clearly spoken about enough. It's almost like it's brushed underneath the carpets. I feel that the fact is,
remember a few years ago, ghosts were the same way.
Right.
But now look at how much public and publicity it's getting.
You know, and
it's all about timing and popular perspective.
Right. That's true.
You know?
But still, you know, to serve them, you know, not to serve them, but to serve them the credibility of the fact that these people have real accounts. That,
absolutely.
You know, and
which I don't doubt. And they, you know, they made, what was the movie they made? Fire in the Sky, which was probably one of the closest real feature accounts that they made of an alien abduction, and I think which was the way they did it. It was a very well done film. Did you ever see that?
I would love to see you open the door for some of these people that actually can give you. And there's, like I said,
I would love. I mean, if there's really interesting stories and great stories, and should I say factual stories, that's what's intriguing. That's what's interesting.
And then again, based upon the person's own perception or own experience, it's like, how can you say to them that didn't really happen? You know, I mean, when you have somebody, and the fact is, of course, yes, we have to take certain things into consideration, but the fact is that sometimes, you know, and I have found this over the years in talking with different people, not so much in you know, whether there have been contactees or abductees, but in ghost situations too, to, you know, do we believe this person? Do they have enough credibility that the fact is this based upon their own perception, has this really happened? You know, how can you prove without an ultimate doubt?
I know. And that's the hardest thing. And I think what it comes down to is the person. You can really tell if a person is genuine and what they've been through is genuine just by talking to them. There's a difference between dimension reality and people who believe. There's a difference between somebody believing in what they say as opposed to something they really believe is true.
Right.
And you can really sit down and get to know somebody and see the difference in their personality, in their tone, in their demeanor. And there are times when I've heard accounts from people that there is no way that it cannot be true. And it's not some way out there concept. There are things that I have heard that are just like, wow. And that's why I like having the company we have. If we want to do movies like that, we can. If we find stories or documentaries about things like that, we can put them out. I mean, we're putting out a documentary about 9/11 coming up, and I'm sure we're going to get tons of flack about it. But, it's our choice to be able to put out things like that.
Okay, and we didn't talk about that. I know that for somewhere around I did read that you were going to do something in regarding 9/11. Is it Katrina that you're also going to be doing something on?
We already did. We released it, and we're doing a re-release, I think, this week, next week, and it's called Refuge of Last Resort, and it was really the only documentary crew that was stuck. And they were shooting a feature film, and when Katrina hit, they couldn't get out in time. So they just shot through the hurricane and shot the documentary about what really happened. Like the day FEMA said on, national broadcast news, we're going in. They didn't go in until like 4 or 5 days later. I mean, it was just ridiculous. And when the National Guard actually showed up, they did not show up with food or water or supplies. They showed up with guns drawn and said, we have to have martial law before we feed or take care of a single person.
Well, I'm having a lot of the guests in the virtual auditorium actually asking you to come back to speak about that because there really isn't, I mean, as far as we know, anybody that was really down there filming the whole thing.
Well, there's the guys who shot it, who did it, and it is really, truly amazing. If you actually see, if you know Green Day and U2 just came out with a video a few months ago called The Saints Come Marching In, that video, almost the entire footage in that music video is from Refuge of Last Resort. And they actually make a political statement there. They're not saying, hey, because they show all the footage of, like, the day Katrina happened, the U.S. came in with food and supplies and help. They actually computer-generated all of that. It's making a statement that they did nothing like that. They did nothing to help these people. I mean, it was a joke. It was a political joke. And it's just it was a crime against thousands of people. And even the day that they said they took everybody out of the dome, they said, we've cleared out the dome, nobody's left. They showed up, these guys showed up at the dome with cameras, and there were thousands and thousands of African-Americans shoved into, they looked like kennel areas. I mean, it was the most unsanitary thing. It looked like the Holocaust. And this is on film. This is on video. It's in the documentary. And it's amazing that people can get away with these things this day and age.
Is there a place that people can go view this documentary or buy it?
Oh, yeah, you can buy it now. You can go to our website. You can go to most retailers. And if they don't have it, go buy them. Say, we need Refuge of Last Resort.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I myself, I mean, I was, I don't know what little part I played in helping them, but I did do my part as far as what I concerned, what I could do. But, I mean, they still need help down there. I mean,
it comes down to this, whether it be ghosts or whether it be ufology or whether it be Hurricane Katrina or 9/11, we're still people. And there is a major problem in this world. And whether I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat or left wing or right wing or center wing, it's irrelevant. It truly is relevant. What it comes down to is how we treat each other and how we look after each other as people. And there's a major, major problem. And I would say 60, 70% of Americans feel the same thing. I don't care if you're for the NRA or against guns. Those are all irrelevant issues. It has to do with people lying to us. And it has to do with us making the right decisions as a country as a whole. And we're just not doing that.
Well, on that note, we're just about ready to sum this up. And I have to say that was, I agree with you, Charles. The fact is that any helping hand in any place of the world is going to be beneficial to us all. It shows compassion as human beings that we are. Let's not do it in separation. Let's do it together. And, if we want this place to be a better place, then we need to put our hands out and start helping instead of complaining about it.
Absolutely.
All right. So, anyways, well, you know what? Thank you so much for a fantastic interview.
Well, you're very
all
welcome.
of us enjoyed you. Your information that you brought. Thank you so much for doing this film, with Peter James. I mean, he's dearly missed from not just myself, but from, hundreds of thousands of people around the world know this man and his work, and we really do appreciate the fact that you did such a fantastic job on this documentary.
Well, Peter's going to be watching it, I'm sure.
And he is. And again, thanks for joining us, and that sums it up for our show today. And again, it's you can reach all this, everything that we spoke about, and buy the DVD on www.anthemdvd.com, and you can also go for the link on portaltalkradio.com. And that's it for us on it. We'll see you next week, and everybody have a great week. God bless.